Welcome back, everybody. The man who was in George Floyd's SUV when he was approached by police last May appears in court on sex trafficking charges. Law&Crime's Anjanette Levy's here with what happened in Maurice Hall's latest court appearance. Anjanette?
Jesse, Maurice Hall has already posted bail in his 4 Hennepin County cases, but now he has to post even more cash in a case from another county. He's not very happy about it, as arguments about whether or not he'll testify in the Chauvin trial continue.
We was getting a ride, sir. I just got my phone fixed.
Shawanda Hill and Maurice Hall were in the SUV with George Floyd as police approached last May. Derek Chauvin's attorney says he needs the jury to hear Hall's testimony about what happened that day or portions of a 90-minute interview he had with state investigators.
He freely answered the agent's questions about where he and Mr. Floyd spent the day, what their behaviors were, where they went, the things that they did earlier in the day, and specifically how he appeared physically, what his demeanor was.
Nelson says Hall fled to Texas right after Floyd died. Investigators found him a week later. At that time, Nelson and prosecutors say Hall made incriminating statements when interviewed. Hall wants to invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. His attorney said in court last week he could put himself at risk for being charged with third-degree murder if he gave drugs to George Floyd. Prosecutors say he could also be charged with counterfeiting.
There's a lot about Mr. Hall's statement that is self-serving and unreliable.
Prosecutors say Hall's interview with investigators is hearsay and doesn't meet exceptions to that rule.
He denies giving any pills to Mr. Floyd, denies that he had pills. We know a lot of that is not, there's a lot of evidence that suggests that's not true.
Maurice Hall is in a lot of hot water legally. He has felony cases pending in Hennepin County and in Redwood County. He's facing charges of solicitation, sex trafficking in the second degree, promoting prostitution, and 2 counts of controlled substance crimes involving methamphetamine, heroin, fentanyl, tramadol, and other drugs. In court on those charges, the judge told Hall he'd have to post $2,500 in cash to get out of jail, to which Hall responded, "That's effing nuts, bro." Meanwhile, prosecutors in the Chauvin trial have not given Hall immunity to testify. Experts say Hall's testimony only benefits the defense.
We were limiting those questions to just in the car.
Correct.
Judge Cahill took a few hours to mull this issue, and he decided that it would not be proper for the jury to see that police interview or to hear about it. He doesn't want the jurors to see that. He said it's just not admissible. Cahill also said that the state is not required to give a reason as to why they won't give Maurice Hall immunity. Jesse?
All right, thanks, Anjanette. Now, Brian, if Maurice Hall takes the stand and invokes his Fifth Amendment right, how will this move the case one way or the other?
I'm not quite sure this really helps, because the way I'm looking at it down the line as a public defender in Brooklyn, if he testifies, he's going to invoke the Fifth Amendment for some very crucial testimony. And of course, as Eric Nelson should, he should point out that invoking that right is keeping away some information. But if Derek Chauvin himself doesn't testify and he does the exact same thing, I can see this backfiring on him. So it might be short-term gains, but it could be a long-term loss for the defense, depending on how this plays out.
Terry, why do you think Chauvin's attorney is arguing to have Maurice Hall testify? Does he really need his testimony when we already heard the testimony of Courtney Ross, the George Floyd's girlfriend, who confirmed that George Floyd used drugs?
He does not need that testimony. It seems to me that it's redundant. As you said, we heard Courtney Ross already talk about the fact that George Floyd took opioids, took fentanyl, and we don't need to hear Maurice Hall talk about that. I think that what the defense is trying to do is paint a picture that these individuals were all using drugs and they were addicts, and he's trying to literally victimize the victim. And I think one of the things the judge said made a lot of sense. He said that Hall's statements are not necessary for a complete defense. So in the judge's opinion, we already have all that we need to defend Chauvin, and those statements by Hall are not necessary.
Now, Angela, it's my understanding that Hall did admit to at least one crime in that interview with BCA agents. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, Jesse, he actually admitted, according to Eric Nelson and the prosecutors, they've all seen this interview and read the transcripts, that he possessed counterfeit bills that day. Now, that's at the heart of this case. That is what got the ball rolling here. That's what started the police call, is that $20 bill that was believed to be counterfeit. And they believe he could face some charges for that. He could also potentially face that third-degree murder charge should the prosecution decide to pursue that. But at this point, they are saying that that didn't cause his death, that wasn't part of it. So we'll just have to wait and see. But he did deny giving George Floyd drugs in that car that day. So it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out.
Important person in a complicated story. Coming up on Law and Crime Daily, George Floyd's brother testifies about the loss of his loved one. Plus, the shocking police body cam video released in the Daunte Wright shooting, why the chief is calling the fatal shot an accident. Up next.